Shalom Aleichem, Mishnah Yomi for Yud Bet Iyar, the 27th day of the Omer count, continues in chapter 5 of Sotah, Mishnah Bet. Now, yesterday, the beginning of this chapter, we brought drashot, we brought limud from the Torah, from the Psukim, that just like the water tests the wife accused of adultery, it tests the man she was accused of being with, and if they were in fact guilty, they will both pass away. And we brought another drasha with another source for Asur Labal or the Baal. And Mishnah Bet sort of continues, Bo Bayom, on that same day that they made these drashot, Darish Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva had another drasha, and we're going to get a little off topic here from Sotah. The Kol Kli Cheres, any earthenware vessel, Asher Yipul Mehen El Tocho, into which one of them, referring to the 8 creepy, crawly shrotzim, a sheretz. Sheretz can mean sort of like a bug or a slimy lizard kind of thing generally, but there are 8 of them in the Torah, these creepy, crawly things that are an avatuma, a source of impurity when they are passed on. So a dead lizard falls into an earthenware kli, kolish, or for example, kolish betocho yitma. Everything in the kli becomes impure. And Rabbi Akiva points out a diuk, a grammatical issue in this verse. Eino omer tameh. He says that last word isn't tameh. Tameh just means impure. Ela yitma. Now, yitma sounds like a future tense verb as well. It's not just can be read as a noun, but it can be really read as a verb as well, like yitameh, like it can make something impure. So it's not just impure itself, it can render something else impure in addition. So Rabbi Akiva understands this yitma as yitameh l'tameh acherim. It can make other things impure. And this teaches, he says, limed, it teaches us al kikar sheni, a loaf of bread or any food that became a sheni. Now, sheni just means second. It means a second level tuma, a second level impurity. Shemetame et hashlishi. It can generate a third step impurity. So what's going on here, we'll get into much more detail in Kalim, but the sheretz, the dead sheretz, is an av, an original big daddy of impurity. It's falling into the airspace of a kli cheres, and then everything inside that kli cheres, all the food. Now the kli cheres becomes a rishon, a first level of impurity, and any food in there becomes a sheni, a second level impurity. It's getting impurity from the now impure earthenware kli cheres. But Rabbi Akiva is learning, since it doesn't just say tameh, it says yitma or yitameh. So these foodstuffs in this earthenware kli into which the dead sheretz was in the airspace can mitame something as a shlishi. So items like truma are a little more susceptible to impurity than regular everyday chulin food, so they can become a shlishi, be contaminated, and the kohanim will not be able to eat them for lunch. And they would have to be burned, as we learned back in Masechet Trumot. Amar Rabbi Yeshua says about this amazing drasha, Mi yagole afar menecha, who will brush the dirt off your eyes? Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, our dear departed mentor, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. He's basically saying, I wish you were still alive to see this. Shehayita omer, that you used to say when you were alive, atid dor acher, in the future there's going to come a generation, they're going to be a little bit make a little lenient, lataher kikar shlishi. They're going to say that a loaf of bread in this situation did not become impure through this sheretz generated third degree tuma. She'ein lo mikra min Torah, because there's no specific verse in the Torah shehud tameh that we would learn directly that this is impure in this situation. Hello, Rabbi Akiva, but Rabbi Akiva, Talmidcha, who's your student. Now the Rambam points out he's actually a grand Talmid, that it's his Rebbe's Rebbe, who was Yochanan ben Zakkai, that Rabbi Akiva, his primary Rebbe, was Rabbi Eliezer ben Horkinus, the famous Rabbi Eliezer, who learned from Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. It says in Pirkei Avot. Now, why is he called the Talmid? So Rambam says because he was very great. So another pshat, we're learning Pirkei Avot during Sfirat Omer. Rabbi Eliezer ben Horkinus is singled out as never losing a single drop of his teaching, of being like a cistern that's completely sealed and a drop never escapes, like a photographic memory. So learning from Rabbi Eliezer, who never lost a drop of learning from his own Rebbe, would be just like learning from Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai himself. Anyway, he's saying your grand student, your student, Mevi lo mikrim in a Torah, he's bringing a verse in the Torah, Shutameh, that proves that it's impure. You were worried the next generation will be lenient because there's no source in the Torah. He's coming up with a drasha that gives us a source from the Torah, just like the halacha. Shnamar kol shebetocho yitma. As we explained, he reads it yitma, not just tameh, it could be yitame as well. And Mishnah Gimel continues, Bo Bayom, on that same day. So they were making a lot of drashot this day. I actually need to explain for a second. There's an amazing Gemara in Tfilat HaShachar, which is the 4th chapter in Brachot, and we referenced it sort of in passing, a while back, a couple of years back, a few years back, that there was a transfer of power in the yeshiva, that Rabban Gamliel hadn't let Talmidim into the yeshiva unless it was Tocha Kabaro. They were the same inside and outside. They were very righteous in all their ways, and there was a dress code. He didn't let just anybody in. But there were some issues where the students and the people felt he was being a little too assertive and perhaps arrogant in regards to Rabbi Yehoshua and the fast day of Yom Kippur we mentioned in Rosh Hashanah, and there were other issues mentioned in Brachot. So they basically inserted Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah as the head of the yeshiva in place of Rabban Gamliel. And on the day they did so, he relaxed the dress code and he let a lot of people in, and a lot of new rabbis and sages and students came into the yeshiva Gedola and brought these drashot and brought these teachings with them. So Bo Bayom, on that very day where they relaxed the dress code and let everybody in, Torah was increased, and our understanding of Torah was increased. It's actually explained in the Mishnah in Eduyot. Eduyot means testimonies. On that day, a lot of sages came in and testified to teachings and Masorot, traditions they had from earlier generations. So it's this same day when we had a lot of drasha action going on in the base midrash. So Rabbi Akiva has another drasha, umadotem michutz la'ir. You will measure from the outskirts of the city, et peat kedma, towards the eastern side, alpayim be'amah, 2,000 in the Amma. Now, this is talking about the Arei Levim, that there's some sort of border region around the cities of the Levim. But there's another pasuk that says, Mikira ir v'chutza, from the wall of the city and outside, Elif Amma Saviv. They get 1,000 Amma around. These are brought in Bamidbar, chapter 35, when we're talking about the cities granted to the Levim, because the Levim don't have specific land, but they get cities, but not only cities, but a little bit of a buffer zone encircling their city to make use of. So it explains what's going on here. We have two contradictory verses. Efshar Lamar Elef Amma, you can't tell me it was 1,000 Amma around the cities of the Levites. Shekvar Namar Payim Amma, because the other verse says 2,000. Efshar Lamar Payim Amma, we can't say it's 2,000. Shekvar Namar Elef Amma, because the other pasuk says 1,000. Ha Ketzad, how can we reconcile this discrepancy? Elif Amma Migrash. The first 1,000 Amma outside the city was Migrash, like an open area, like a public park. It was left undeveloped for, public use. Instead of having Central Park, they had Saviv Park. They had park all around the city of the Levim to make it beautiful, make it, look very splendid. Alpayim Amma, Tchum Shabbat. And 2,000 Amma, what is that talking about? The Tchum Shabbat. Now, this goes way back to Eruvin. Well, that was only about like a year and 4 months ago, give or take, where we learned that 2,000 amot, a person may not travel past that on Shabbat. That is the Tchum Shabbos. And there's actually a discussion that might be just a rabbinical number, and might be 12 mil is the actual deraisa limitation, but 2,000 amot, you can't go past it. We did see certain exceptions, like Hatzolah, doctors, midwives, going to rescue somebody, but in general, that was sort of the limit. So that's the Tchum Shabbos, and it seems like Rabbi Akiva holds that's actually a biblical level limit. Rabbi Eliezer Benosha, Rabbi Yossi Galili Omer, and Mishnah cites another opinion from another Rabbi Eliezer about what is this 2,000 meaning. So with the 2,000, 1,000 discrepancy, he says, Elif Amma Migrash. The first 1,000 was open space, public park and the like. Alpayim Amma Sodo de Kromim. But there was an additional 2,000 amot of fields and vineyards that the Leviim, the Levites, they didn't have their own ancestral land, but they did have this area around their cities to, have vineyards, have fields, grow what they needed. The Rambam actually explains this, that they had 1,000 amot of park and then a 2,000 wide circle of Sadot Ukramim, fields and vineyards. So they actually got 3,000 amot according to the Rambam. So if the Leviim are reading the Rambam, then Bezrat Hashem, when we all return home, they're going to have much bigger workspace than other opinions. Just a heads up for the Leviim to study the Rambam on this issue, so you can, get a bigger nachala on Eretz Yisrael. B'mheira b'yameinu, amen. So Yashar Kochachem, Zayizont.